punk rock changed our lives.
Jay, happy to have you. Well, there's two Jays now. Jason, the other Jason. Pumped you're here. Where are you exactly in space and time?
I'm in Sandusky, Ohio, currently.
Oh, nice.
But by Cedar Point. I don't know if you've heard of that joint.
Oh, we have. Old Dak Shepard is very, very fond of said place.
Yes, that's a good thing to point out. And I'm stoked to be on here too. I mean, I'm no Nicole Carroll or Annie Sakamoto, but I'll do what I can.
I got kicked off when Andrew was explaining that I think I bring people on here that he might not know. But the thing is about Jason Welch is that he might be the most famous person in CrossFit that no one actually knows. Meaning everybody who is somebody always knows who Jason Welch is, but nobody who's not somebody has any idea who Jason Welch is. It's one of my favorite things ever to introduce someone to Jason Welch. Like, oh, he's a nice guy. And then, like, I don't know, someone like Boz or Castro walks by and, like, hugs him. They're like, how does this guy know that guy? Because you're easily probably one of the most soft-spoken but one of the kindest people in the space. So it's no surprise that
Thank you.
everybody knows you. I've known you now for, I don't even know how long. When was that seminar that we met?
Oh, man, that was at Reebok headquarters.
2012 or 2014?
Maybe 14. It was the coaches course, the level. What did they call it at that time? It was a different name.
Coaches
Prep course?
Yes, that's what it was.
Pre-level 2, yeah.
Yeah, my third iteration of said L2. But anyway, so Jay, you've definitely worked your way through the space a lot of times. I think probably one of the more prominent reasons everybody knows you is because of the red shirt you wear at the competitive stuff in terms of the medical side of things. Meaning if you've gotten hurt in some sort of competitive CrossFit event, Jay's probably been somewhere near you, at which point hopefully he put you back together and likely made fun of you at the same time.
Chances are good.
But the real reason everybody knows you is because of your terrible dad jokes.
Yes, I have many of those.
100%. No, the reason I wanted to bring you on, though, obviously affiliate owner. I'm not even going to try to say what your career field is otherwise because I can't ever get the word out. It's a tongue twister. Anesthetist.
A nurse anesthetist.
Yeah, that thing. But also concept 2 remaker
Artistry.
extraordinaire.
Yeah, I kind of customize them to a certain degree. Have been doing that since about 2012. Just kind of tampering with them, and
don't forget, you used to run a big competition.
Yes, used to be the Rogue Winter Classic in association with CrossFit, and then it turned into the Winter Classic in association with CrossFit.
Well, I have tons of topics, so unless Tony, Jay, or Carrie, you had one you want to throw immediately at him.
All of those things, affiliate owner, nurse anesthetist, concept 2 person, medical society. I didn't bring you on here to talk about any of those things. The reason that I wanted to bring you on here for was you as a person, basically. Of all the people that I have met, one of the reasons that everybody knows you is that everybody loves you. You probably have one of the kindest followings of people, of anybody. Like, if your name comes up, everybody's like, oh, I love that dude. And so the thing that I really wanted to unpack was the man behind the jokes a little bit, because frankly, I think there's a lot to explore in terms of like how you came to adopt such a disposition, why it's so important for you to maintain that disposition. And like, truly, I wanted to talk about how you managed to like instill that in your entire family, which I think is probably the coolest thing that Jason Welch has ever done. Like, fun fact, his family is way cooler than he is. And he's pretty cool. So I want to talk about those things. But Andrew, feel free to bring up your list of topics too.
Oh, I will, but those are good. And we'll probably interweave in a few of those. So his first question, Tony, Jason, is how does one either put on a face and or never to the public have a bad day? Because that's what I think he just basically said. It's like, if you've ever met Jason, emotions aside and day aside, he simply brings it whether or not he's truly feeling that way. So I think the first question would be, what does one do when they are just pissed off in the morning or something happened to turn into a Jason? And are you ignoring things or talk to us about that one. That's the one I want to
He
know.
does his
Off
hair.
rip.
That's the superpower, just so we all know here. Jason
That
Welch's
is true.
superpower is his hair. He puts each hair where they belong, and then every day goes according to plan.
That's part of it. But yeah, getting back to that question, I think having a confidant, and so a bestie would be my wife, Julie, who is way cooler than I am. She gets to see all the different sides of me, and being able to have that person you can vent to is a great blessing. So she's been around since the second grade.
Damn.
Didn't know that, or she didn't really want to be around me in the second grade. I wanted to be around her. And then it took till my sophomore year, like stalking her and everything. And then she finally gave in. 3 kids later and coming up on 30 years of marriage this year. So that's my my magic bullet, is being able to confide in her. And just because everything stacked together in my career with being a bedside nurse, first and foremost, and then being a different level as a nurse anesthetist, patients read off of you, and you can tell that vibe you put out there is a vibe you get back. Same thing with owning an affiliate. Same thing with any interactions I have, because as you can imagine, I'm sure you've met surgeons. There's some all very capable, but some not. Personality-wise, they're not socially intelligent, so they feed off of you too. So a lot of those means you have to have a good poker face, and that's kind of how I've lived my life. My dad's taught me to deflect through humor as an elementary principal, and
being that about humor, though, 30 years of marriage, that can miss every once in a while. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you, but if I'm guessing, see, I immediately knew I'd crack him, because I feel the same way. I'm like, oh, dude, that joke missed so bad on the emotional cycle that I am in troubly, and I need to figure out how to immediately start cleaning or doing something. But
yes.
That is because in humor, Marlon Wayans, you guys know Marlon Wayans of the Wayans brothers? Okay. He has a great one to where, like, why humor is, life is extremely challenging. We don't need to read books to know that. There are a lot of things that are extremely hard, and if you actually cannot pick and pull out the humor in it, it's what the fuck are you even doing? So I like that.
And the same kind of is the continuity is there with my 2 oldest. My son will be 25 in April, Jordan, and then Jenna is 23, and they're both nurses now. So it's really cool to see them in their career choices. Then again, that's their career choice. I'm not one of those dads that's like, yo, you got to do this. They decided on their own, and they're both great nurses in their own right. But it's just really neat to be able to discuss things with them and them have a way to vent and talk and see kind of how I handle things, and then let them put their own spin on it. So that's been really cool.
I want to dig a little deeper. Sorry, Tony. So you're in high stress situations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's, in your job that you're at currently, whether that's at the games or any other competition, right? To the point you just made, you're like you're not calling your wife when the stress picks up to vent. So what set of principles, what set of tools do you utilize in those high stress situations to bring you back to reality and keep that face on for everybody else and for yourself?
I think the biggest lesson I learned in my former life as a nurse, I was a flight nurse for a while. So that's a whole nother level of stress. So you're flying into scene runs where there's bodies all over the highway, people missing half their face, like kids that are your kids' age, like just to be able to compartmentalize in a way to, again, everyone feeds off of you. Like you walk into the back of an ambulance and those paramedics are at their wits' end because the airway is so bad. They know that if you don't get that, the patient's not going to make it. And they're already up on the ceiling. So the goal is, even though inside I'm like, wow, this is really bad, I just take a deep breath. And there's a lot that has to do with breathing that really helps out a lot. And I exhale and I just say, okay, well, what's the next step we need to take? And in order for me to deal with stressful situations is to be prepared. And what I mean by that is, how am I going to put my best foot forward in the same fashion every single time. Now you're caring for a mother and a baby. That's a stressful situation. So I just have a pathway that I do to compartmentalize, to kind of take a breath, take a step back, focus and move in, and then deal with the collateral damage later. And that's kind of how I got into CrossFit in 2009. I've always done physical things. It's either that or a bottle, I'm being totally honest. So I chose the path of physical fitness because I got the most return out of that. And it was an outlet for me to get rid of some of the obvious stress. So that's kind of how I compartmentalize, and then I address it later, and then I also talk it out. But yeah, that's I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I'm sorry. I got to hop in on that.
Okay.
Because, dude, you breathing, that is so deep when it comes to the breathing and the nervous system and all of these things. Leadership, someone who can panic hard would be like this guy, but I do it in weird ways. It's also another superpower you can push it towards. But if someone came into the ambulance with that energy, I'm immediately even gravitated towards your energy the second you walk in there, because that's the calm guy. But how does one, let me give you a quick example. I just did this jiu-jitsu comp and I was like, we'll fucking roast this thing. Dude, I did not realize my heart rate could get that high after 15 years of CrossFit, call this whatever, college sports, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I actually thought I was going to die in things that I've been training for, a year. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm like, oh, this whole breathing thing's not working like this. But I'm so exhausted after one singular minute. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this nervous system is truly a real thing. So what do you tell people? Probably Carrie and Tony fall into this too. Like, our nervous system, I'm breathing, right? Like, inhale, exhale. Oh, the square breathing. Oh, vinyasa breathing, whatever the fuck you're trying to do. Your brain outdoes that breathing pattern. Is it still working on your body and in your nervous system? Or have you actually trained breath work for that stressful situation? Does that make any sense? Like, you can be too amped up to get out of a breathing exercise, or no, you've always nailed it. When you're the most stressed, you can breathe your way out of it.
Usually I can. But it's just one of those things. It's you messed around with Wim Hof and that kind of stuff early on, and I found that was very, very centering for me on a daily basis. I haven't really been doing a lot of it lately, but it's helped me break that cycle of when I start to spin up and I do things that aren't productive in my head. That's been basically the key for.
Well, it's been proven that he tapped into holotropic breathing early. Like, if we all just did it right now and basically took away the oxygen supply enough that we feel like we're going to pass out, we get that huge endorphin rush after of like, oh shit, I'm not dead. This is amazing. And then that transfers into the next thing you do to make it happier. Like, so I'm just saying, like, you walk in the back of an ambulance, you don't have time to do like 30, like deep in hit, Okay.
I've practiced it long enough that I know when I need to take that deep breath, and it seems like an eternity, but it resets my barometer.
Fucking awesome.
I can kind of focus a lot more on what needs to be focused on. I don't think about, hey, that kid that I'm about to take care of is my son's age. Like, that was always tough, or you'd see senseless things that would happen. A car versus an entire family, a drunk driver, and people are disfigured and some are dead, and, a lot to unpack there. But again, physical fitness has always helped me. And then when CrossFit came into the scene, for me, it was 2009. That was like, wow, that was another level. So that's been super helpful. And then just to speak to the jiu-jitsu thing, I'm a white belt that's still trying to learn how to tie his belt. But that's been fun because it's like drowning on dry land. I always tell people.
I got a Velcro one, Jay. You can just use
it. I need those and those New Balance shoes. The bad ones.
A lot of this is surface level stuff, which is great because you do have a lot of great mechanisms that you rely on. Probably the one who spent the most time with you. I watched you kind of work through these things in higher stress environments, but then also remain, your kind, lighthearted, sort of joking self in that exact same thing. I mean, I've watched you mid-diesel day. I've watched you in the middle of 30 hours of big fish. I've watched you in lots of different environments. Never get a hair out of place. Literally 3, 4 a.m. Hair still where it belongs, and it does not miss. And fun fact, his diesel day was basically in a blizzard. Somehow his hair still didn't move. That's called shellac. I think that makes me old because I even know what that word is. I don't think it's like banned now, definitely in California. But what I'm more interested in is the deeper part of it, right? The point of this podcast is the Infinitely Scalable Podcast, and what scales is core operations, not external systems and processes. Although that's what everybody's always after when it comes time to like scale things. It's not, and I don't mean that in a business sense. I more so mean, how did Jason Welch come to become the version of him? What was the dichotomy, the duality, the course of events? I mean, aside from the fact that you kidnapped your wife at second grade and convinced her to stay with you, and then somehow procreated some of the coolest kids ever. Shout out to Jersey because I don't have favorites, but I'm just saying Jordan is also pretty rad. But my point is that those things are not correlative, they're causative, right? The reason that Julie chose you, despite the fact that you might have heckled her probably her entire life until she did finally choose you, is somehow that came to be. And what was that course of events that led to you becoming that core version of you that I'm kind of referring to, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it was just how my parents raised me. And I just tried to model after them. They're compassionate. They were, they're still alive, but they very based in religion and faith. And so that's kind of how they raised me as far as having family values and surrounding myself with people who are not only transparent, but always wanted me to do better. And then I've just fed into that. If you look at any facet of my life, I've always, I wouldn't say it's a superpower. I would just say it's something that I have an innate ability to meet someone and within 30 seconds, and this sounds super abrupt, but I can tell whether we're going to be friends and we're going to have more conversations that are deep and meaningful, or if we're just going to be surface and I'll be polite and we'll move separate directions. And so I've been able to find those people and bring those people into the fold. And as I watch my parents do the same thing, I mean, they always surrounded themselves with amazing people and were very supportive. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. It's just modeled after my parents. And
I'm also happy to say that I managed to fool you, so you stuck around. So
Yeah,
Speaking of still alive, also, anybody's listening to this, there's probably a person that's half alive behind Jay somewhere that he just put to sleep before he made it to this podcast. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I think, no doubt about it, like people do have a very high opinion of you, and you do have this ability to collect people, and people seem to collect you. What is it that you think that you look for when, I don't know, because you're definitely not out, because I've watched you meet new people. You're definitely not out and about looking for certain things. Like, what could you say is the inherent or the intrinsic thing that you're like, wow, you're my people? Besides their jokes.
Yeah, that's that people have to tolerate those. But I think people that listen more than talk, like if we have a conversation and someone's very apt to tell me everything, and I understand if someone's excited, but I mean, if it's everything keeps coming back to self when I talk to someone, for me, that's not a red flag, but it's something that's like, I already know at that point that, again, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So I usually gravitate towards people that listen, and take things in and don't make snap judgments. And I think those are the people I find fascinating, and I think it resonates, as well as, it sounds corny, but the same thing with my relationship with Julie. It's been, we discovered the 5 love languages. I'm sure everyone knows what those are, but once we figured those out, mine is physical and acts of service. So I think mostly people that do acts of service for me is what I look for, whether it's within the military community, whether it's just in public and the CrossFit community. Those are things that resonate with me, and that's what I can identify in other people, I guess.
Yeah,
The old love languages. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, the hard one about that love language thing is like 99.9991% of dudes at least have physical touch in there. And that's awesome. The fun part though is like I've dove deeper into that too, because as guy joke as I love to be, because we all know that we love amazing dude jokes, that goes a little bit deeper than probably the one everyone's thinking of. And like, I just think, do you think that's a reason that attracted you to even training? Because it is kind of physical, right? Like if I see you, I'm going to give you a hug because of this bond, this camaraderie, etc. Like, you ever feel that way? Because sometimes I feel like, why did I just start jiu-jitsu? I'm like, oh, I'm definitely taking out some aggression here.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a different type of therapy for me. Like it's physical outlet, but at the same time, it's something that is very cerebral, especially jiu-jitsu because it's like chess. But yeah, I think that, and then I've tried to make a habit of telling other men that I love them. I think that's an important thing that gets missed on people. I don't know if it's people are afraid to be vulnerable or they're afraid to express that, but there are people like, hey man, I love you. It's great to see you. And it's really interesting to see people's reactions. Sometimes it makes people uncomfortable and I'm okay with that, but at least they know where I stand. I think guys need to do that more often.
Yeah, not for nothing when a dude's as handsome as you with the hair not out of place says I love you, it definitely brings some things to the surface for a lot of us.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and no doubt about it, because your love language is physical touch, I understand why you chose jiu-jitsu. Totally. Makes complete sense. Want to cuddle. I think you kind of walked into that one, though, jokes aside. And what I was going to ask you is like, okay, back to the parents. The parents played a large role in who you are, but they were not essentially, at least I don't think they were in the nursing field, were they?
No, my grandmother was in World War II. So,
but they definitely weren't in like this sort of service field. So I guess so they obviously gave you some of those core values and those core beliefs, but what was it that pushed you into an extreme form of service, especially in like, the mercy play stuff and things like that, and then obviously into coaching and whatnot? Like, where did that come from?
That's a tough one. It just seemed like I naturally gravitated towards it. It's kind of been in over my head my whole life, whether it's been medicine or, opening an affiliate. I'm one of those people that I'm more of a visionary and I can visualize where I want to be. And Julie's more of a, hey, I'll see when that happens. And now she's stuck as an affiliate owner, has been. We've owned one since 2012 and she didn't know what she was getting into. But yeah, it's just, I've been slowly just following the pathway of wherever life takes me. Just give it everything I have. When I put my head down on the pillow every night, either I've given my all in the affiliate with my members and with the patients, with the people that I interact with. If we volunteer, because think of all the places we've been to volunteer at the games, regionals. I mean, we run into each other at summits. Like, those are all people that I give my all to, and I don't know if there's anything tangible I can tell you why I do that, but it's just kind of been my natural life's path.
I think there's something interesting, Jason, that I'd like to double click on, which, I think the thing that ties nicely together is the Hopper model in CrossFit, which for those of you that don't know, it's just an infinite number of physical tasks, each written on a ball, and the fittest person would be the one who can perform the best across a random selection of these tasks, right? So it's almost as if like you're kind of gravitated to these instances where, like, if you look at your field, right, a random selection of patients in a critical situation, it's like almost, CrossFit trains you to be uncomfortable in that unknown environment and really put your best foot forward, given the task in front of you. So I just love for you to just talk a little bit about the two worlds and how they kind of intersect, kind of training for this unknown and unknowable, but also developing capacities that you maybe didn't have before, and then you continually evolve, right? So yeah.
I think that's a great question, and they do parallel each other on many levels. I mean, getting back to where we're kind of talking about that, early on, we did that event, the Rogue Winter Classic in association with CrossFit. That got the okay, kind of back of the napkin kind of thing, because both things are about wellness. I know, working in Western medicine per se, that not everything we do is amazing. There's pills and things that people should be able to handle their wellness with just moving around. We all know this. So that parallel kind of tied in with, so the medicine tied in with CrossFit. And then within that event, like we got Cleveland Clinic Sports Health to kind of think outside the box and do functional fitness. And also they have holistic pathways there within the Cleveland Clinic. So that was kind of where they both kind of came together. But I think just having the background of being able to be able to pivot whenever and kind of keep an open mind has been helpful on both levels, in the medicine and within the CrossFit community. So I don't know if that makes sense, but there is a lot of overlap. The reason the event isn't happening anymore is because I put a lot of effort and time and money into it, and then COVID kind of did some things to a lot of us. So
I think it's just very interesting on just like being able to perform in these tasks where the unknown or unknowable exist. I think about different programs like High Rocks and World Fitness League, whatever. These are all predictive, like
Fitness Project, Jay.
Project. Well, they have they have their programming set in stone. And whereas CrossFit, it's like I hated looking at like the website to find out what the workout of the day is, because I like to be surprised. I like to like be in that space of uncertainty. And I think people generally have look at our culture. We have a hard time with uncertainty, right? So being able to predict things on the fly as you go, it's a skill that I think is underdeveloped in this culture. But
I agree with you. I think that's a great analogy, and it's true in life, because anything that has scared me, whether it's just in parenthood, being a husband, medicine, CrossFit, I've always pursued those things. Like what scares me about this and why, and how do I learn more about it? How do I put myself in a vulnerable position? Because that's where people, like you said, it's that comfort zone. People get that pushback and they're like, I'm going to acquiesce. I'm not going to do this because it's uncomfortable for me. Or, hey, I'm not the expert here, so it's hard for me to have that humility to do it. And I tell you what, it has paid 10x for me in every aspect of my life to just jump into things where I'm over my head and just say, hey, I'm going to learn this. Like example, in medicine, when I graduated from anesthesia school in 2009, ultrasound wasn't readily used to do what we do, like blocks, like for someone getting shoulder surgery or knee surgery, or things that now it's very ubiquitous, and people use ultrasound. They're teaching them in school how to do it for all the blocks, because it's the definitive way to do things, because you can see the nerves and arteries and veins. So I had to teach myself how to do that. And so that was me going to cadaver labs all over the country with physicians, with people that are above my pay grade per se, to teach myself how to do it. And I tell you what, it pays so much, because now I'm a lot more comfortable in that. If I go into a hospital, and one of the other things I do for my job is I travel all over the country. So I'm what's called an ambassador for sound. And it's one of those things that I have to go into an OR that I don't know the surgeons, I don't know the staff, they don't know my skill set, and I have to perform at a high level. And some of that is doing those blocks. And so there's some places in the country where nurse anesthetists don't allow them to do that. So when I walk in somewhere and do that, they're like, whoa, I didn't know you guys could do that. It's very rewarding, but it's because I put myself in that position, is a long story short. And the same thing with owning an affiliate, and I don't coach anymore. I'll do a guest coaching thing here and there, but it just kind of messes up my coaches if I'm in there inserting how I do things. I mean, I'm happy with the way they do it. They will tear into me. They just did yesterday, which I love. But that's making myself vulnerable and saying, hey, I don't need to be the expert in everything. Let them do it. So that kind of how it parallels medicine too, and how my approach is. So I don't know.
Sometimes I think Jay he like triggers me in the best way. of like bringing the hopper in, because I got to touch on that, Jay. That was fucking all the years of seminars. Predictability is in for athletes, because I want to hear what Jason, I'm going to refer to Jay and Jason. It's fucking confusing because you said High Rocks World Fitness Project, genius idea to release a movement list because it allows you to prepare. And CrossFit at its core, if you want to be a games athlete, you need to be able to suffer the most anxiety on planet Earth, because you have no concept if everything you do, everything you train for, something was a chink in your armor. And that validates our methodology. And the answer to any athlete, when they're like, that fucking sucks, man. Like, I'm trying to be a pro at this thing. I'm giving my life to training. Sometimes, you know, that's we applaud you. That does not mean that the sport is right for you. That does not mean CrossFit is right for you, because anything that comes out of that hopper, 6 backflips into an L-sit, whatever, you need to be able to compete. And so I think ultimately, I don't know, like our friend Brian Shantosh, you know, sometimes the bus has a flat tire, and you got to be able to accept that and lose because of the anxiety. Do you feel that right now? Like a little bit with, I would say, athletes and maybe where the sport's going, or I don't know.
I think there's something to that. It's really tough mentally when you think you prepare for everything and every contingency and it's still not good enough. I think keeping it pretty generic on the medical crew this year with the unfortunate incident that happened at the games. You know, you're talking about, of that medical crew, I mean, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the amount of experience there of people that are swiftwater rescue, you know, the whole day before the event, like we went out prepared on jet skis, did all kinds of stuff to prepare getting people out of the water and safety. And then when you fall short and you've done every full measure you can, it's a tough one to digest, especially when there's human life involved. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that in life. It parallels with the athletes in CrossFit. The hopper technique is because that's what life is, right? It's a big hopper. You know, think about it. You own an affiliate. You're like, oh, sweet, I'm all caught up on my taxes, and somehow the accountant screws it up. You owe $10,000 somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, that's life in general. Or, hey, we've got a good thing going. We got a great affiliate feel. We're going to do the open, and then something happens, or something political happens. You know, I just think it's kind of a fact of life that people shy away from now more so than anything, or embracing it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that makes any sense to what you were saying.
Absolutely.
But I do like the hopper analogy. That was pretty brilliant. You should get a big head over that, Jay.
He's got a big head over it. I mean, it makes complete sense. Obviously, those sports are always going to emerge. They've attempted to emerge, and the thing that brings them fame is also the same reason they have none of the staying power, because human behavior is to crave specificity. We want to know what we're doing, and for that reason, it makes it very easy, but it's also what makes it very boring. Right? The reason why CrossFit has so much staying power is that, despite the fact that it's very frustrating because it challenges you every single day at your core, because it is unknown and unknowable, and you have no idea really what's coming out of the hopper. You know, back to Jay, is the same reason why, you know, it's remained relevant, right? It's remained constant because it mirrors life so effectively. And I guess kind of keeping with that same thing, with a lot of the work that, like, I think a lot of people do is they try to tend to put like knowing in the way of knowing. And with you, I've watched you again in those high stress environments and never sort of falter, never sort of fail. Not to say you've never had a bad day. Definitely those days come. Make it sound like you're beyond reproach in that regard, but thank God for Julie is all I got to say on that one.
Amen.
Yeah. I don't think she's ever had a bad day. I should probably bring her on the podcast to talk about it.
Probably have a better time. She's a lot better looking. She has all her teeth and everything, so that's good.
The problem is she'd have to be able to use the computer, and we've tried to do those Zoom calls. That does not really work out very well.
Yeah, that's
Julie, see, Jason stole her in second grade and never let her use a computer again. That's how he kept her.
We're getting there. That's her getting into the affiliate stuff. Is she's learning how to do all the behind the scenes stuff, and
Really just that Jay's been in human trafficking since he stole Julie in the second grade.
Right. He goes home and says, "You can eat now, Julie."
very
No problem because he's never home.
yes.
He's constantly always gone. And I completely forgot where I was just going to go with that conversation because then it got me laughing thinking about Jason's jokes. Back to the love thing. So it'd be very easy for someone to be a person like yourself, effectively from the outside and the inside, looking like you have it all together. Handsome dude, perfect hair, great wife, amazing kids, good job, all these things, to be a complete and total dickhead. I think if you honestly looked at you and you didn't know your mannerisms, you could be like, I bet you guy's an asshole. And then you'll be the first person to be like, I love you. And it completely, truly disarms people. And I'm curious, I guess, back to that conversation. Where did was that also from your parents? And where did that actually start with you?
Yeah, I think it started. Some of it was innate. I remember being probably 5 years old, and as an example, my dad, like, remember those green machine guns you'd have? You'd pull the trigger and it'd go rattle like it was automatic.
Yeah, we're both that old. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm 52, just putting it out there. And that was the coolest toy, man. I love that thing because I always liked Army, military, and would run around in the woods and do all that stuff. And that broke. And so my dad took the time to fix it for me. And then he gave it to me. And as a little spoiled kid, like, just was like, I don't want it, doesn't work. And then for some reason, at 11 o'clock at night, I remember this distinctly, I was just a sobbing mess. I walked into my parents' room. They're like, what's wrong? And I told my mom, I'm like, well, my dad did all this work on this and I didn't appreciate it. Don't know where that came from. That was been innate, and that's just kind of how I've approached life. My lens I look through anyway. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just kind of, I think a lot of this stuff is innate. I mean, a great parenting, both teachers, salt of the earth people, worked hard. My dad would buy like JCPenney suits and stuff so we could have nice clothes, like that kind of thing. First in his family to be a college educated person and then pass that on. And I mean, love my, God rest his soul, Grandpa Welch, Irish guy that just racist as could be, went to Ku Klux Klan meetings when he was 5, like just
all canceled, Jay.
Right, totally. And then just, it's amazing to see, and within one generation, how my dad decided to go to college and live a different life and then espouse that in his children, and how it's carried over into how I espouse things. Like, my motto is don't be an asshole. Like, respect people until they give you a reason not to. And that's just basically how I've lived my life. If it's the lady cleaning there at the operating room after there's like blood and guts all over it, I'll go in there and help her do that and talk to her like I would talk to the surgeon or anyone else, the CEO of the hospital. And that's always boded well for me, because I think a lot of people, that's disarming too. But that's just kind of how, it's kind of a combination of my parents and whatever God gave me.
Yeah, like one of the not that this is necessarily meant to be about coaches and coach development, but I think where it comes back to this conversation with you is a lot of coaches don't pay a lot of attention to their origin story, and they tend to be very focused on essentially the outcome or the conclusion of their story. So they want to try to L1, L2, L3, L4, and one of the struggles with that is not having an idea of what drew you to the field to begin with, because coaching in and of itself it's so expansive. It can be anywhere from, leadership and that conversation all the way down to physical fitness. It can be, executive development, whatever. But until you kind of understand that quirk, that thing, that moment, that incident, whatever it was that the switch flips for service, it's very difficult to figure out what field of coaching you want to be in, or what direction of coaching you want to be in, or for that matter, effectively, what change you want to make in the world. And for you, and obviously you don't coach on the floor anymore, you're not coaching in the gym anymore, but every single person that you seem to interact with, whether it be in a high stress environment like middle of the night type of thing or otherwise, there is an element of coaching that's happening there. Sure, it's not cueing, it's not telling them to get below parallel, but I've watched you take people from absolute chaos moments and bring them back down to baseline, center them right back to where you're at. And sure, some of that is your presence, but it's ultimately your ability to lead people to better outcomes. And so the main reason I really wanted to bring you on the podcast was kind of to that. One, absolutely one of the most kind, loving people ever, and you're well known for that. Also, you're handsome, so you'll drive up our ratings. But respectfully, one of the things I talk about a lot is being able to be an active observer in life versus an active participant, and how if you can curate that skill set, it's essentially a superpower. And for everybody that's listening, really what I mean by that is that to be emotionally invested in the inputs and the outputs of the environment or the situation that you're facing is a very dangerous place, right? It's very reactive. It's very chaotic. It's unpredictable. But if you can step out of the chaos, out of the moment, calm yourself, center yourself, and say, hey, what is it that I'm experiencing? Why am I feeling this way, et cetera, and you can observe the situation, you can effectively alter the outcomes. You are a master class at that. I've watched you do this. You almost fascinatingly are unprovocable, to the point where, like, I've seen things happen to you, things go wrong. I've seen shitty athletes be complete, like somebody should have taken them out back and shot them type of attitudes. And you are just the observer, right? Like, you're never in the moment. You're never reactive. You're always, you're definitely like deadpan, but also hilarious at the same time. And that, I think, is a skill set that I'm not really sure how people get more access to people like you, but that is one of the things that I really want to dig into, is that, like, you are the sort of the walking manifestation of that whole conversation. It's why we've always been friends, is that you're stable in that regard. And to me, that is, I don't know if that was always innately in you, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you did throw yourself into such a chaotic career field, trajectory, et cetera, where I think you did have to learn it very quickly. But to coaches that are coming up in the space, like, there's two parts of that. Understanding what that thing was that pulled you to this thing, and then understanding how to kind of remain an observer in the development of this thing as opposed to an active participant. And you do both those things incredibly well.
Well, it's very kind of you. I think one of the things too is everyone wants to have a life hack to, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to hit the fast forward button for me. And a lot of times in different scenarios, people want to jump start to, like, where they're at a level they can handle different things. And I think that observing more and just continually exposing yourself to those type of situations is where there's no hack to get there. It just takes some time and experience. Like, I think sometimes people can mean well and they'll be in their paradigm. And I think the best acknowledgement of that is, kids were little. I still worked a lot, but like I do now. We've always agreed that I would work, Julie would stay home. And so I would be gone on these 24, 48-hour shifts as a flight nurse, and I would come home and think I was super dad, because I would talk to all these nurses that were, like, really frustrated with their husbands because they didn't help with laundry, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I would come home and I would help with laundry in the morning and get the kids off to school, thinking I'm super dad, best husband in the world, right? Because that's my paradigm. I'm focused on that. And then Julie would get upset and I'd say, man, what's going on? Why? It finally came to a head. And I was like, why are you so upset? She goes, you don't understand. I know you mean well, but you're messing everything up. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind,
Write that down.
Yeah. And that was like an epiphany moment for me. And that's one of the things I think that attributes to how I approach things in life as well is, I might think I'm doing 110% and like hitting on all cylinders. And then when I step back and take that breath and look from a 50,000 foot view, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize in my good intentions that I truly screwed things up. So I think that's really important.
Well, for one, I can see Julie actually pulling you aside and saying that. Actually, I think I've witnessed it in some other categories, which is hilarious, like middle of the night. Fun fact, he made Julie do Diesel Day with little to no training nor understanding as to what it is. And if anybody doesn't know what it is, you can go ahead and look it up.
Didn't talk to me for the first 6 hours.
Yeah. And if you knew Julie, this would be maybe we'll bring her on so everybody can have some closure to what I mean by this. Poor thing. But she survived it like a champ. But the big part of that is almost back to the high rocks chipper model thing or the hopper model thing, right? Which is you're definitely a child of curiosity. You've been able to stay in a place of observation and curiosity as opposed to ever wanting to exert your knowledge and your status and your experience on anything. And one of the interesting sort of paradoxes of our industry, of this space, is everybody's quest for certainty in possession of knowledge in pursuit of answers, as opposed to their ability to sit in patience and just observe and ask questions. And you've done that incredibly well. And it's not meant to obviously parade you and say that you do things really, really well. But hopefully the point is to bring people like you onto the podcast, have hilarious conversations about things that no one knows we're talking about because it's just one giant podcast of inside jokes. But respectfully to bring them on and to have conversations around the value of things like you could absolutely be on a pedestal of knowledge, right? You could absolutely exert all of your experience over tons and tons of people in this space. You have more accidental and incidental knowledge than anybody you likely come across as acquired on purpose, right? And so, but you don't. You're quiet, you ask questions, you don't necessarily assert that position of power, and you're able to stay curious. And I think that is one of the quintessential Jason Welch characteristics, is that hands down one of the most curious people I've ever met. And I think that's why you and I have always gotten along. You're always interested in whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is, even if you have no idea what anybody's talking about, you're like, how'd you get into hangnails? That's weird. Right. And I just think that part of it's fascinating. And I think that if people understand that and they can listen to it and, they're listening to this podcast in terms of like scalability, people think that scalability is repeatability and certainty, but it's not. And in many ways, it's your ability to maintain that sort of childlike curiosity and your ability to maintain that innovative spirit and that trial and error sort of approach to all areas of life, not just business for sure. And I think you do a pretty good job of that in terms of just never wanting to know, even in the moment somebody's hurt. Jay's like, tell me about how that happened.
Yeah, Tony, you do a good job of, you're not giving yourself enough credit here, because being an active observer in your life, we've done this for a long time. It feels like a long time now on these podcasts, but the conversations that we've had, the reason that you're such buddies is like, this real superpower is authenticity and understanding that, like, my superpower is being reactive. And it's taken me a long time to realize, like, that's okay. That's okay. And Jason's superpower is literally de-escalating with energy, except I would be the worst fucking guy to do his job. And he may not be the best to do whatever this job on earth I have. I have no idea what type of jobs I do. So I'm just like, I think you got to give yourself a little bit of credit of, you coach people to realize who they are as people and then get into that said superpower. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's why a lot of us become friends somehow. And then somehow Tosh just gets into all of this. Doesn't even make sense. Like then he just gets intertwined into everything, because ultimately all of us are trying to fill a void to have him give us a compliment. That's just the one thing. Like, you get a compliment from Tosh, you got 10 years of feeling good. I got one before on his podcast. I remember thinking, like, whoa, I am set for at least 2 decades. 2.
Well, that guy, I'll tell you what, just to give an example, he made a special trip out to the games to talk to people on all ends of the spectrum, but with the unfortunate tragedy, and just made himself available. I mean, he drove all night. Like, people don't know this about it. Like, if you truly know him, he would drop everything and come help support you. He drove through the night to get to the games. And, I know I leaned on him, and we had some time where we talked, and I mean, he was there for everybody on that. Cause I mean, he's worked with everyone, and he knows everyone. So that's a genuine person. Again, I love surrounding myself with people like that. We've all met. Jay, we met today, but I'm sure if we hung out, we would be bros, man. Like, this is.
Wait, you guys didn't know each other? That's fun.
There's your example.
For somebody that didn't know Jason Welch or Jay Vera, that's impressive.
But each one of you, like, we've had like meaningful conversations, and I don't know. I just feel like a better person for being around you guys. And I mean, you guys don't even pay me money to say that. I'm just being genuine.
I mean, I did, but it's okay. I mean, you pay me money to basically keep
I do. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the only reason I like you, I actually didn't like you. I was by myself in the hotel lobby years ago, and I was like, "Why is this guy so loud? It's 6:30 in the morning before you with these two other dudes." And I was like, "Oh, they're going to be in the seminar with me," as we all walked to the thing together, and then we ended up becoming best friends. But I was like, "Who is this loud at 6:30 in the morning?"
Yeah, that sounds right.
This guy.
I think my big takeaway from all this is just, how do I show up better, in situations? I think of when you were talking earlier, Jason, I thought of, James Bond, there's 10 seconds on the clock, dynamite's about to detonate, and you don't see him like running around like a fucking wild fucking ape, right? He's doing the exact inverse. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected, he's breathing. And just hearing that, right, from your standpoint, just reminds me, I gotta slow it down. What's that military adage? The slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Sometimes I get so caught up and just anxious and trying to do too much. I just need to slow down a little bit, man. Get smooth. If I'm not smooth, I need to get smooth. Find a way. And so breathing is a part of that. I need to do more of that. But yeah, thank you for that, man.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been awesome. It's been great to talk to you guys.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of directions. I really wanted to be able to bring you on so that I could show the person behind the scrubs, the scrub behind the scrubs, so to speak. I have some good jokes with you, but share really truly a good friend of mine with the rest of the world, right? I know all of us. We all have, I mean, obviously you and Jay just met, but all of us have very, very fond memories and opinions of you. And so the point of this podcast is really to be able to kind of sit around the fire and share those conversations with each other and let other people that kind of overhear it. So for me, it was mostly just, let me share Jason Welch with the world to some degree, or, James Bond, as you'll now be called, probably more like Jason Bondage, moving forward. But for me, I think that's the gift that I hope that I can, it's not necessarily a takeaway, but hopefully it's something that I can share, which is give people access to somebody like yourself and let them realize that like people like you do exist. There's holy, good looking, great, successful dudes out there who are willing to say, I love you and be vulnerable and be kind before they're willing to be arrogant or assertive or anything else. And I think that is a rare thing. And I'm glad that you're here. And I'm glad that you were annoying as shit that morning. I think it was a Hilton at Reebok. I'm glad we've been friends for over a decade now. But truly, I think that you are a gift for sure. And so hopefully people do get to find more access to you or bump into you, not when they're injured.
Yeah, I appreciate that when they're not injured. That's even better. And then I've got a dad joke for you. It's a little racy, but Tony, you've already heard it, so you can't say anything. All right. What's every Amish woman's fantasy? You can answer if you want. Any ideas? 2 men a night. 2 men a night.
That's going to be the reel that gets cut from this. If everybody could see the text history between Jay and I, thank God you can't, first of all. Yeah. But it's all that.
Yeah. off-color jokes.
I believe
But
that. I've got a final question. I know we really just summed it up, but anyway, and Jason, we probably existed in the space for probably 10 years, maybe seeing each other's faces, but not really having like brushed elbows and like had a conversation.
Mhm.
And then I went up to Tasha's, and this is how I remember. I know we talked before, but not deeply. And then, right when I get up there, I brought my then 2-year-old son. And right as we get there, people start firing off big rifles, and it's so loud, and dude's just like, he can't handle it. But straight away, you met us because there were guns going off, and I brought a small child to this thing. And you were just like, let's go eat some food, and that sticks with me because it's kind of informed my opinion of you and just how we've interacted every other time since we've met. I'm like, oh, this guy just wants to give, and like is like, really, you're an acts of service person. Like, that's what you give to so many people. And I'm more curious on like, when did that get instilled in you? You mentioned kind of this moment of I learned to be vulnerable, and like that's paid off tenfold every time you've kind of leaned into that. And I'm curious where, like, in every place I've seen you, you've volunteered your time to be there. So to me, that's really interesting. And I wondered if you could like talk about where that comes from and like why you continue to do that.
I think, again, it goes back to my parents and how, again, and them being in education, but also they would volunteer a lot of their times with church and church functions. And, I would learn about parts of the world and also parts of this country that were just dirt poor. I'm talking like dirt floors and chickens running in and out, kids with spina bifida in Honduras and those kind of things. And just to see those acts of service by my parents and just see the reward they got from that. It's just something, it's priceless. You can't, people crave that feeling of satisfaction in life, and it doesn't cost a dime. It just costs your time and your energy. And it comes back again 10x. And I just think watching my parents do that, and they did mission work, and they still to this day do some. But I think that's where it started. And then I just like the feeling that I got from that. And I've just poured myself into that because it's just a gift that you can give somebody that doesn't cost you a cent. It just costs you time and energy. And I think that's why people appreciate it so much. So I'm kind of addicted to that in a way. And again, Julie's been super patient with my schedule. Like, I'll be back out at Big Fish this year for that fundraiser to kind of double down on doing the pimped out erg thing, but also hanging with the community and being the medical person there. And again, being able to bring Jordan, my son, out this last time was huge.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great for him to see because, again, him being a nurse, he was the second medical person there per se, and the rest of everyone could concentrate on things. But being able to carry that and pass that on to him was super rewarding, like tearfully so. It was great for him to see that. But that's kind of where I come from. And I remember you approved, Carrie, the Adam Hamilton workout.
That's right. That's right.
And so we had correspondent email, and then I finally put 2 and 2 together when you did come out to Tasha's and we talked. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's this guy. And so just even before we met each other physically, like, that was our interaction. And can't thank you enough for getting that done, because that's a very good friend of mine's son who died in Afghanistan, and he's commemorated with a workout. So it's huge.
Yeah. That was a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But those are, I got to meet very few people on the other end of those emails, managing the Hero program for 10 plus years. But damn if it's not so rewarding just to connect with the families and the folks actually impacted by just creating a workout. And I don't want to take away from that, but like, we can all look at it. We do workouts every day, and it's this small thing, but it has such a huge impact on those people and a way to remember that person. Like, I think about that all the time.